Unhelpful thinking styles, also known as cognitive distortions, are common patterns of thinking that can lead to negative emotions and behaviors. These patterns might not accurately reflect reality, but they can become habitual and influence how we perceive situations. So much so that they could start affecting your day-to-day life by causing unnecessary stress, anxiety, and low mood. They can have an impact on your decision-making, on your interaction with others, and how you perceive your own abilities. Recognizing these patterns is an important step in improving your mental well-being. By challenging and replacing unhelpful thoughts with more balanced and realistic ones, you can reduce negative emotions and approach situations with a clearer perspective. Let's start by learning how to identify them. We will go through each of them and give a real-life example how they might be influencing you. Mountains and molehills refers to the tendency to blow things out of proportion or to minimize them. It is also known as the binocular effect, because it is like looking at something through binoculars and either magnifying it or minimizing it. For example, if you get a B on a test and say, "I'm so stupid, I should have gotten an A," you are making a mountain out of a molehill. On the other hand, if you get a promotion at work and say, "It's no big deal, anyone could have done it," you are minimizing your achievement. Judgment refers to the tendency to make negative evaluations of people or situations based on limited information or without considering all the facts. For example, if you meet someone who is quiet and reserved, and you assume that they are unfriendly or boring, you are making a judgment without considering all the facts. Prediction refers to the tendency to make negative predictions about the future without considering all the facts. For example, if you're going to a party and you predict that you won't have a good time because you don't know anyone there, you are making a negative prediction without considering all the facts. Black and white thinking is characterized by viewing situations, people, or experiences in rigid, absolute terms. This all or nothing mindset leaves no room for nuance or complexity, often leading to oversimplified and inaccurate perceptions. An example of black and white thinking is labeling a person as entirely good or bad based on a single action, rather than taking into account their varied traits and behaviors. Compare and despair is characterized by seeing only the good aspects in other people, while seeing only the negative ones in ourselves. We compare ourselves by not taking into account the full picture of the other person, whilst also not seeing our own good qualities. For example, a person might come across a post from their friend on Instagram, showing off their perfect vacation pictures in an exotic location with the caption, "Living my best life." This person might then start comparing their own life to their friends and feel a sense of despair and dissatisfaction. To overcome compare and despair thinking can be helpful to remember that social media often only shows the highlights of people's lives, and that everyone has their own unique journey with its own share of ups and downs. The unhelpful thinking style of shoulds and musts is characterized by rigid and inflexible beliefs about how things should be. People who think in this way impose unreasonable and unrealistic expectations upon themselves and others, leading to feelings of guilt, frustration, and disappointment. For example, someone who constantly thinks, "I should always be perfect," or "I must never make mistakes," is setting themselves up for failure and an endless cycle of self-criticism. Similarly, holding others to impossibly high standards can lead to strained relationships and resentment. The unhelpful thinking style, critical self, happens when someone is constantly judging and criticizing oneself. Individuals who engage in critical self tend to set impossibly high standards for themselves and are often very self-critical when they fall short of these standards. For example, imagine a student who has always been an A+ student and has set the goal of obtaining perfect grades throughout their academic career. One semester, this student receives a B+ on a difficult exam. Instead of acknowledging that the exam was difficult and that a B+ is still a good grade, the student engages in critical self-talk, telling themselves that they are a failure and that they will never achieve their goals. This negative self-talk only increases their stress and anxiety levels and makes it harder for them to perform well in the future. Emotional reasoning is an unhelpful thinking style wherein a person makes decisions based on their emotions rather than reality. It occurs when a person assumes that their emotional perception accurately represents the whole truth, without considering factual evidence. For example, when a person believes that they are worthless because they are feeling down, even though there is no objective evidence to support this belief. The unhelpful thinking style of memories involves dwelling on past experiences in a negative light and using them as a point of reference for interpreting current situations. This often leads to feelings of regret, guilt, and hopelessness, as well as a distorted perception of reality. For example, someone who constantly remembers past failures and mistakes might interpret their current job performance as also being inadequate, even if they are actually doing well. Catastrophizing is an unhelpful thinking style where an individual tends to only focus on the worst possible outcomes of a situation and not take into account the possibility of this actually happening. For example, if someone is planning to go on a trip, they may start catastrophizing and imagine all the things that could go wrong, such as missing a flight, losing their luggage, or getting lost in an unfamiliar city, even if these things have never happened in previous trips before. Mental filter is an unhelpful thinking style in which a person focuses only on the aspects of a situation that the filter allows. This could mean that you only see information that further proves the thoughts and feelings you already have, rather than also seeing the information that disproves those same feelings and thoughts. An example of this style of thinking would be a person who receives a performance evaluation from their boss. The evaluation is mostly positive, with a few areas identified for improvement. However, this person fixates on the areas for improvement and ignores the positive feedback. They might think, "I'm such a failure, I can't believe I messed up in those areas, and my boss is probably disappointed in me." Mind reading is an unhelpful thinking style where a person assumes they know what someone else is thinking, without any evidence to support their assumption. The individual may believe they know the motives or intentions behind this person's behavior. For example, a person might assume that their friend did not invite them to a party because they do not like them. However, there could be many valid reasons why the friend didn't invite them, such as limited space or lack of opportunity to invite everyone they know. Now that we have learned how to identify unhelpful thinking styles, it is time to put our knowledge into practice by examining our own thoughts. take a few minutes to reflect on your thoughts and write down any that might be biased, negative, or unhelpful. Next, use the tools we have learned to identify which unhelpful thinking style may be at play. Remember that it doesn't just have to be one. It can be that several of these styles are overlapping and are able to be identified. When you have identified the unhelpful thinking styles, try to balance out your thought by stepping back from it and considering other, more positive perspectives. This can be done in practice by imagining that you are giving advice to a friend, for example. Remember, this takes time and practice, and it is okay if you do not get it right on the first try. Be kind and patient with yourself. The full module is freely available on AHopefulSpace.com, including a handy fillable worksheet that gives you prompts how to balance out your thoughts. Thank you as always for listening and for your engagement with the exercise. Until next time.